really rich? Have you got loads of money to burn? I ask that specifically in relation to cars. Is £30,000 or £40,000 spent on a car good value if we only use it for about 10 hours a week? I'm Dave. Welcome to Dave Takes It On. We're having a look into what is sat out on your drive or in your garage or in the street right at this moment in time. We all have them. They're called cars. Doesn't matter whether they're petrol, EVs, diesel, hybrids, hydrogen, doesn't matter. We've all got one, or virtually all got one, and they're sat outside. Now, just a quick statistic for you. There are 8,760 hours in an average year. Okay? Our cars we use for less than 400 a year. That is 5% of the time. 400, by the way, if you do 8,000 miles a year and you average 20 miles an hour, that's where you get your 400 from. It's a crazy investment. And we do it year after year after year. We just go out and buy another one. Not only is it an expensive thing to buy, you've got interest to pay on it, because most of us haven't got 30 or 40,000 just to go and buy a new car with. We put it on some form of finance. But they actually crash in value the day we buy them. Whatever car it is, this is not EVs or ICE or anything, this is just cars. If you go and buy a brand new car right this minute, the second you drive it off the forecourt, you've just lost £5,000. You buy your £40,000 car, drive off the forecourt, 35 grand, just like that. The second you drive off the forecourt, it's gone. Every year that car sits outside, it's depreciating. Now, if we look at average figures for the average car, this is again not EVs, not ICE, not petrol, hybrid, it's none of that, just cars. The average depreciation at the end of the first year, the car is worth about 81% of what you paid for it. That's a 19% drop. By the end of the second year, that's down at 69%, so you've now lost 31%. And after the third year, it's down to 58%. So you've lost 3 years, you've lost half the value of it. Just gone. You cannot sell that for more, unless it becomes a cult classic or something, but you're going to get roughly half what you paid for it. So in terms of actual money, at the end of the first year, £8,000 just gone out the window. End of the second year, £13,000 has gone. End of the third year, you've just blown £17,000. Just on depreciation. Just on depreciation. And what that means is that your car outside is losing £1 an hour throughout the whole of the first 3 years. Just sat there. Every hour it drops another £1. It's 8,000 odd hours in a year, £8,000 depreciation in a year. This is not counting anything else. This is just depreciation. Is that good value? No, it isn't. Houses, we buy houses, and generally speaking, they hold the value or appreciate. So you spend 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 pound on a house, whatever the figure is, and first of all, you use it every single day. You probably use it 18, 20 hours a day. You go out and do some work, not at the weekend, most of us. We sleep there, we eat there, live there, everything. We make use of them. And they actually appreciate, or in most cases, they don't go down. I know we have boom and bust, but generally speaking, if you have a bust, it comes back up again. So a house, you could argue, is a good investment. A car that out there loses £1 for every hour it's sat there just in depreciation, that's not a good deal. So what else do you have to add? Interest. As said already, most of us haven't got £40,000 to go out and buy a car. Therefore, we have to borrow the money. And the interest on a loan at a sensible rate, modern rate these days, you're probably going to spend £2,000 or £3,000 in interest over the term of a 3-year loan. Then you've got fuel. All cars need fuel. I'm going to ignore EVs for the moment because the fuel price is absolutely weird. If you can charge at home, it's virtually nothing. If you charge out on their own, it's extortionate. But an average petrol car doing 8,000 miles a year is going to spend £1,000 a year on petrol or diesel. So that over the 3 years that you've kept it, that's £3,000. Now, on top of that, you've got to service it. To keep the warranty, you're forced to service it. So you're going to have somewhere between £1,000 and £2,000 for servicing costs. Now, on top of that, you've got to go and insure it. Okay, again, how long's a piece of string? How much does insurance cost? I don't know. But certainly you're going to spend over £1,000 over 3 years. There's very few people drive around insuring the car less than £300 a year. I know there are also some paying over £1,000 a year. I'm just going to pick a random figure of £1,000 over the 3 years. In addition to that, you might have to pay for parking, you might have to pay for congestion charging. And if you add that whole lot up, when you buy a £40,000 car, it's going to cost you £30,000 to keep it for 3 years. That's almost everything you paid for it. And you wonder where all your money goes. Why are you poor these days? Why are you finding it a struggle to afford things? It's because that thing outside is costing you 10 grand a year if you buy new. Is that good value for money? I don't think it is. The problem we have, there is absolutely no other alternative. We need one, but there isn't one at the moment. You can't rely on public transport. Some of us work in places where you just can't get to on public transport, and you have to take multiple stops on buses or underground or whatever, and then you might have a good walk on the last stage. Sometimes they don't run at the times you want them. You can't take taxis because they cost an absolute fortune. It's like 30 quid for the first 5 miles these days. It's just crazy money. So there's no alternative. Trains, yeah, they cost a fortune as well. Probably even more than keeping a car. That's why most of us will have a car and drive a car. Robo-taxis are on the way, if you believe what Elon Musk says. They're actually already running in China. They're running in several UK cities. They're running in several American cities as well. They're up there already. Yeah, I know there's all scare stories and everything, but there are cars driving around the streets at the moment, charging people for driving around, and there's no driver in the car. Might only be a handful, but they're out there. But according to Elon, this year is the year of the robo-taxi. He now believes, he's been wrong before, but he now believes that this is the year then that they will come good, where the full self-driving package, the software, is better, safer than a human being. You might disagree or not, but it's going to happen one day. This is technology. It will happen one day, whether it's this year, August the 8th for the launch of robo-taxi with Tesla, or whether it's 5 years' time. Doesn't really matter. It's going to happen one year. But when it does, it will offer you a real choice. You see, most of the cost of getting a taxi is paying the human driver to be in there. And not just paying him to be in there, because he can only work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever hours they do work, he has to make all his money in an 8-hour period. So he has to effectively overcharge you. It's like hotels. If you go on holiday and school holidays, they will charge whatever they can get away with because they have to make money there where they can't when the kids are all back at school. Hotels go very quiet. So your taxi driver needs to overcharge you for the trips. And if you ever look at the price of a trip from Heathrow into the centre of London, it's absolutely horrific what you have to pay for something which I think is about a 15 or 16 mile drive. Horrendous. Robo-taxis, we don't know if they're coming out this year and we don't know how much they're going to charge. But the figures that we're seeing vary between 25 and 50 pence a mile to hire one of these things and get a drive there. Don't forget, you don't have to pay a driver anymore. This is depreciation. So if you look, for example, at a petrol car, they drive typically on petrol. If you do 50 miles to the gallon, you'll be paying something like about 15 pence per mile in actual pure fuel cost. If you add something on for insurance, for having a taxi, if you add something on for servicing, depreciation, everything else, the cost of driving now is well over £1 per mile driven. Robo-taxis, if they come in even at 50p a mile, will suddenly offer you a half-price option. This is sounding quite interesting. I know many of you are going to say, oh, I'll never trust a car without a driver, and yeah, all of that rubbish. But I'll tell you this, if you are able later this year or 5 years' time to get a robo-taxi, you go on your mobile phone, open up the app and say, I want a robo-taxi to pick me up here, take me to work, and the trip is £6. How many of you would not take that one up? You don't have to worry about parking, you don't have to worry about charging cars, anything. It'll turn up outside, that's it. You don't need car insurance, you don't need road tax, you don't need anything, you don't need servicing, you don't need to put fuel in, you don't need to charge it yourself. Robo-taxis could become like Uber today, but at a tenth of the price. So, picture the scene, and this is where your budget will overcome your prejudice. You fly into Heathrow Airport from wherever you are. It is about 16 miles from Heathrow into the centre of London. If you go to a conventional black cab or taxi, a normal taxi, you will be quoted somewhere between £50 and £100. It depends on the time of day. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you'll pay a lot more. If it's a busy time, you pay a lot more. If it's quiet, you get away with a bit less. But it's £50 and it's well over £100 at certain times of the day. Okay, 16-mile journey, £100. Alongside the taxi is a robo-taxi. It's on your app. You can say, I want a taxi from Heathrow to central London, 16 miles, and it's 50p a mile. £8. £8. So you have a choice now. £8 in a robo-taxi, no driver, it knows what it's doing now, or £80 in a manned taxi. How many of you are going to voluntarily choose to pay 60, 80 or £100 to do that? 2 o'clock in the morning, when the conventional taxi is up about 120, 130 quid, robo-taxi is still £8. It doesn't change. It knows what time it is. It doesn't make any difference to it. In fact, at 2 o'clock in the morning, less traffic, it gets there quicker. Anyway, that is what is going to change people's perception of robo-taxis. And once somebody starts using a robo-taxi, that thing you've got sat outside, which is losing £1 an hour, is suddenly going to become, it's due for renewal, but I actually haven't used it for the last week. And I now get a robo-taxi, go to work every day. It's on a contract. It arrives here at 8 o'clock in the morning, drops me off, picks me up at work, 5 o'clock, drops me off back here, 6 o'clock. It's on a contract, so I don't even have to think about it. I don't use the app anymore. It's a contract. I've got a regular pick up and drop off, and it's costing me just a couple of quid a day to use a robo-taxi. That's losing 24 quid in a day. Do you see the thinking? So what is going to happen, in my opinion, is that when the robo-taxis do start working, when they are reliable, and if they come in at the sort of price that the business models are suggesting is where it's going to be, then these are going to take over big time. I'm just about to go on holiday, so it's going to be a bit of a strange time for videos over the next couple of weeks. I'm off to Spain for a bit of a holiday. And obviously can't produce videos over there in any number while I'm over there. But I've just been pricing up how to get to the airport. I live in Leyland, near Preston. It's about 30 miles off to the nearest airport, which is Manchester, 35 miles, something like that. The best quote I can get is £104, and that's Uber. So Uber will come and pick me up here, and unfortunately it's about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm paying a premium. Take me to the airport, drop me off, and then when I come back, they'll pick me up and bring me. £100 for the holiday. I could take my own car and park in the car park. They have airport car parks. Average price for one of those. Oh, isn't that strange? That's about £100 as well. So you park your car there for the 10 days, just sat there doing nothing, and you come back. It will, over 10 days, have lost, what, 240 quid? Pound an hour. But I'll have paid £100 for that privilege to drive there, park it and come back. I can't get there cheaper. And one of the silly options, this is crazy, is I could actually go and stay in a hotel in the airport itself, and park my car there. They will allow me to leave it there while I'm on holiday, charge extra for it obviously, but it's about 150 quid to have a night out in a hotel. I'm there first thing in the morning, car's in the car park, I can walk from the hotel with my bag straight to the terminal, off we go on holiday. It's a crazy world. Now, robo-taxi, it's about 35 miles. It'll cost £35 return. What am I going to do if I've got an option of getting a robo-taxi to take me to the airport? I don't have to use my own car, don't have to get a taxi or train or anything else. I would use a robo-taxi. Now, if we go one further than that, for Tesla owners now, if I can put the robo-taxi software, self-driving, onto my car, whoa, that's free. I can charge it up here, virtually free at home. I pay 7.5p a kilowatt hour. I can get my car to drive me to the airport and drop me off. It's 35 miles, 2.5 pence a mile. It's about 80p to get to the airport. I can then say, drive home. My car will drive home on its own and park in the drive. And then when I'm going back, I just tell it, yeah, come and fetch me. It will drive out to the airport, pick me up and drive me back. And that'll cost me about 2 quid. What am I going to do? These robo-taxis, if they work, if they come in at the sort of price that people are projecting, these are going to be absolute transformation of the way we travel. We will no longer have to buy cars. If I want to go to the Lake District, just book a robo-taxi. It's 50p a mile. Lake's 70 mile away, so it's 35 quid to get there, have a wander around, pick up a robo-taxi, drive it back again for a holiday. It's crazy. That's cheaper than the train, and it's probably cheaper than using a petrol car to get there. So, transformation. So, welcome your comments down below. It is a big change, and a lot of people say they'll never get in one. A lot of people say they'll never trust one. Yeah, okay. Next time you're on holiday, on your plane, flying over to Spain or Turkey or wherever it is you're going, just remember the pilot's not flying, he's on autopilot. That's where it came from. 90% of the plane's flight these days is on autopilot. And I'm an ex-pilot, so I know what I'm talking about. If the weather is so bad that you can't actually see the runway, they will get autopilot to land it. It will bring the plane down to within a few 50 or 100 feet of the runway without being able to see it. So you're already doing this. You've just got a guy sat up front keeping an eye on it, making sure it does what it's supposed to do. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please click the like button, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. Thanks very much. I'm Dave.